Hi darlings, welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for being here. If you're new to my channel, please kindly click the subscribe button below. Turn on your notification bell so that you don't miss any of our interesting tutorials. So in today's video, I want to share with you guys how I made this simple, elegant and a beautiful abaya with one-sided yoke. It's very easy to make. I used about 3 yards of fabric to make this, and you'll be needing at least half yard of lace to make the yoke for the front and the back side. So guys, if you want to learn how to make this, make sure you watch to the end. I also want to use this opportunity to thank you guys for all your support so far, all my returning subscribers. You guys are so amazing, and for people always asking after me, I really appreciate. So guys, if you want to learn how to make this, let's get into the video. So guys, for clarity purpose, I'm going to be using this paper to describe some things, but I'm still going to show you on fabric as well. So for now, the first thing you have to consider is the full length of your abaya, depending on where you want your abaya to sit on your body, whether on the knee level or on the ankle level. So to know how much fabric to fold in as well, because we are going to be cutting on fold, you're going to add your half of your shoulder measurement plus the full length of the sleeve of your abaya where you want the sleeve to be. For mine, I added 8 inches, which is half of my shoulder measurement, plus the full length of the sleeve, which is 17 inches, plus additional 1 inch for seam allowance. Then whatever you get, use it to fold out your fabric. Now the first step I took was to add the lace to the fabric before cutting out every other thing. So the first thing I did was to notch the center front of my fabric, that is for the front piece. Then next, you're going to open it up like this, and note that you're marking on the right side of your fabric. Okay, so when you open this up like this, from this center front area, you're going to measure to the right 4 inches. Then on the center front area, from this point downwards, I measured down 7 inches and mark. Then towards the left side of your fabric, you are going to measure from the center front half of your shoulder measurement and mark. In this case, the shoulder measurement is 16 inches and I divided 16 into 2, which is 8, and I'm going to measure from the center front and mark. Also note that my yoke is gearing towards the left side of my front piece. Then from this shoulder area downwards, I'm going to measure down 7.5 inch and mark. Now the next thing I did was to consider where the yoke is going to end, and I want it to end like 3 inches before the end of the sleeve measurement. Then assuming that this is the 1 inch for seam allowance, you are going to measure in from this measurement line 3 inches in and mark. Then this is where the yoke is going to end. Now the next thing to do is to use this indication point to curve in to create a shape for your yoke. Yours may be different measurements and different shape altogether, but at least this is what I use to achieve mine. Now you are going to cut this out from your front piece, that is from your fabric. These areas we shaped out, you are going to curve it out of your fabric. Now for the back piece of the dress, I want it to have a slit at the back and an opening at the neckline area. So I marked out 1.5 inch seam allowance before the center back like this, and I'm going to pin it up all the way from this point all the way to the full length and then open it up. And when I open it up, this is what it looks like. This is the front piece we've cut out from the front side of our fabric, and this indicates the center front of the front piece. This is the back piece, And as you can see right here, I'm going to be merging the piece from the front piece to the center back to the center front of our dress. You are going to matching it right side to right side of the fabric. So I'm matching the center front and center back and cut out. So now I'm going to set the front piece aside, and this is the back piece. Okay, so as you can see, I still have it all pinned up, and I'm going to remove this and show you how to cut out your lace. Now to cut out the lace, you're going to place the front piece first on your lace, and note that I placed this wrong side of my main fabric to the right side of my lace. As you can see, this is the wrong side of my fabric to the right side of the lace, so that when I cut out the front piece. So we are going to be adding about 1 inch seam allowance. You are going to mark 1 inch away from your main fabric and cut out. Now for the back piece, after unpinning it, you are going to do the same as you did for the front piece and cut out. Place your fabric wrong side to right side of the lace, give 1 inch seam allowance around it, and then cut out. And after cutting it, you should have something like this. Okay, and set it aside. Now the next thing we are going to do is to join the lace onto the main fabric, and we are going to be stitching this together. But first of all, I always advise that you pin all round first before you stitch onto your fabric. So for the back piece as well, you are going to do the same. And as you can see, I've done one side, remaining the other side of my back piece. This is what it looks like after stitching together. Now we have our lace attached to our main fabric. Now we're going to mark in our measurements as usual for the abaya. And as you can see, I marked out 1 inch above my fabric right here, and it's going to be serving as a seam allowance. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to consider the neckline area of my dress. And for the neckline area, I marked in about 4.5 inch, measuring from the center front. From this point onwards, I'm going to measure in 4.5 inch. Also note that the width and depth of your own neckline could be different, and the shape as well could be different. So I just marked in 4.5 right there. And then for the depth of the neckline, I simply marked in 3.5 inch because I wanted it to be a high neck. Next, I'm going to be connecting this as a round neck like this. So guys, you can go ahead and cut out your neckline, but as you can see, I left out about 1/2 inch right here while cutting out for seam allowance of the taping for the neckline area. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to create the shoulder slope. So I'm going to measure down from the 1 inch seam allowance I created above my fabric. I'm going to be measuring down about 1 inch from that area like this, and then I'm going to be connecting it all the way to the neckline area to create the shoulder slope. So guys, if you are yet to subscribe to our channel, please kindly click the subscribe button now. Turn on your notification bell so that you don't miss any of our interesting tutorials. So now I'm going to use this paper to explain a little bit more in case you missed some things out previously. Now I'm going to encapsulate the explanation right now. So the first thing you do after measuring your fabric to your lace is to create the seam allowance 1 inch above your fabric. Next, you are going to be measuring from the center front of your dress any amount of width neckline you desire, but I measured in 4.5. Now for the depth, I measured in 3.5 inch and mark. Next, I connected it as a round neck measurement. Next, I created the shoulders loop by measuring 1 inch from the point right here, and I connected it all the way to the neckline area like this. And after connecting it, the next thing I did was to create the bodice, measuring from where this loop starts. I measured down 7 inches opening and mark. Now at the ankle line, I marked in 1/4 of the hip measurement plus 3 inches. And then I'm going to be connecting this with my desired shape all the way to the sleeve area like this. And this is the shape of my dress. But yours can come in a different shape. It all depends on how you want it to be. Don't forget you have your seam allowance at the base right here for your hemming. Then you can make some alterations for the sides depending on how you want the cowl to fall or how you want the side of yours to be. You can make it a straight line all the way like this, or you can decide to make the cowl to start from the knee line measurement. Maybe above the knee line measurement, you find your knee line, and then from there onwards you can mark in the cowl by creating a straight line shape all the way to the knee line first, and then a curve to this point just like this. So it depends on what you want the body of your dress to look like. You can even make a butterfly shape if you desire. I'll put the link on how I created my first cowl dress on the description box below, and even my butterfly dress, so that you check it out later. Then any shape you choose to make, just make sure you add your side seam allowance while we proceed. Now at the neckline area, I'm coming in by 1/2 inch above the neckline area. Then at the above the shoulders loop, another 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to connect this together. And that is the seam allowance for joining the shoulder areas of the dress while sewing. Now for the back piece, I'm going to go in on the neckline by just 1 inch, and I'm going to connect it to the shoulder line. Then the next thing I'm going to do right now is to mark in the other sides and cut out the back piece of my dress, and I'm going to set it aside, especially the front piece. Now this is what we have already. This is what your fabric should be looking like right now. You've attached the lace to the neckline area, and you've cut out the shape of the neckline and the shape of the body of your dress. So now the next thing we are going to look at is the stitching part. Now the next thing I did was to cut out the taping, that is the taping for the neckline area, and I'm going to stitch it all around the neckline, and then I'll do same for the back piece of my dress. And after sewing for the front piece, this is what it looks like. Yours should be looking similar to this if you're sewing along. So for the back side of the dress, after sewing the neckline taping, remember we marked out some few inches for the slit allowance. Then I measured down the neckline by 4 inches. You can measure more than that if you desire. Then you are going to stitch all the way to where you want the slit to start, and the slit could start around 3 inches above your knee line. So you find your knee line, measure 3 inches above it, and then mark. Next, you are going to be stitching from this point to this point, leaving the neckline area open and the slit area open. So now after stitching this, and you open your dress up, especially at the stitch line area like this, now we're going to be securing the slit and the neckline area, and you're going to open up your slit like this. The seam allowance is up. From this point where the slit stops, you're going to measure 1/2 inch above it and mark. Then you're going to make a 1/2 inch stitch all the way to the bottom part, and then at the other side as well. Now after sewing this up, you can go ahead and sew in your hemline as well, like this. Then for the neckline area, you're going to be doing a similar thing. Okay, remember at this point we opened up about 4 to 5 inches opening for the neckline area. Now you are going to fold, measure down ½ inch below where your stitch stopped, and you're going to sew ½ inch onto the neckline, towards the neckline area, just as something similar to what you did at the slit area. Then after sewing this, the next thing you are going to do is to sew in your button loop, and to do that I'm going to be using a fabric button loop. Next I'm going to be stitching this onto this area, and then a button at the other side of the dress. Now after doing that, you're simply going to put your dress together right side to each other, both the front and back piece. Join it by the shoulder line, the side line, hem the sleeve area and the bottom part of your dress. And as you can see, I've done that already. I've stitched the shoulder area together, as you can see, on both sides of the dress, and then the sleeve area as well. I'm yet to add my button anyway. Then at the sleeve area, I've also hemmed this area by 1 inch using the 1 inch seam allowance, and then at the sides as well I stitched up using the seam allowance reserved for it. And then also I've gone ahead to hem my dress, as you can see, and also at the slit area I've also finished it just as I showed you guys how to do it. As you can see here, I've done this already. So this is a simple way to make this dress. If you have another idea on how to make this, please let me know on the comment section below. And this is where our tutorial ends. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure you comment if you have a question or you need clarification. Please don't hesitate to write it on the comment section below, and don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Okay, thank you guys for all your support. I really appreciate, and I'll see you guys in my next tutorial. Don't forget to check out my other videos on how to make different kinds of abaya. See you guys in my next video. Bye.